Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend our new product showcase introducing our United VMS version 8.0 software suite. My name is Christopher Winbun from FLIR's TCX training department. Also joining me as co-organizer for this presentation is Jico, our VMS product director who oversees the development of our United VMS product lines. During the webinar, if you have any questions or comments, please use the question pane that's been superimposed on the right-hand side of your screen. We also have a team of product experts standing by to answer all questions through the webinar. This presentation will be recorded and distributed at the end of today's event. When you receive our follow-up email, it will contain a link to the recording. Feel free to share that with any of your colleagues that didn't have the opportunity to join us today. You'll also notice within that same toolbar I mentioned earlier, there's a handout that's available to you. It's a copy of the slide presentation that we'll be using today. It's in PDF format, so you can download it and browse it at your leisure at the end of the presentation. If you've had your finger on the pulse of the recent security shows, you might have noticed that our United VMS was the recipient of some very prestigious awards. This really means a lot to us here at FLIR because it means that we are delivering a great product to our customers. So let's take a few minutes and explore what the United VMS offers us today and talk a little bit about some of the features that you'll come to find. Our next major release is about to hit the streets. It's packed with improvements, new features, and a new invigorated robustness that's sure to please any existing customers. Since this is a major release, you will be required to utilize a new license if you plan to upgrade from an existing version. And remember, for those customers that are currently a gold or platinum SSA, your new license is available to you free of charge. Version 8.0 release covers the entire United VMS family, which includes Latitude, Horizon, and Meridian. Now, as we move through the presentation, we will come across some features that are Latitude specific. I'll be sure to point these out as we progress through the presentation today. Now, the big question, and I know there's been a lot of speculation on this: when will 8.0 be released? You can expect 8.0 to hit the streets by the end of the month. And of course, once released, all new Meridian and Horizon units will start shipping preloaded with 8.0 at the same time. There are many new features that we will begin to talk about that will be released with version 8.0. One of the first ones we'll discuss is the advanced cyber defense. Here at FLIR, we know it's important to have a strong cyber defense solution, and it's very important to our customers as well. And we are always looking for new ways to improve our product's cyber defense integrity. With the release of version 8.0, we've taken another step forward, allowing customers to utilize TLS to secure communications between camera and VMS. And don't worry, we'll get in a little bit deeper on some of these features as we progress through the presentation and get into the demonstration just shortly before the conclusion of the webinar. We also have our global admin server that's available now, dramatic improvement in administration of multi-system deployments, allowing system administrators of multiple Latitude deployments. Notice I focused on Latitude there for a second. This is a Latitude-only feature, which doesn't currently include Meridian or Horizon deployments. But your customers that take advantage of multiple Latitude deployments have the ability to automatically manage user accounts across multiple systems. This is a total central administration solution for multiple systems in the same organization. Installation and upgrade improvements, this is a big one for me. And I've heard it time and time again when I've sat through many of certification courses, what customers are looking for. They're looking for that backwards compatibility. And one of the things that we've laid the groundwork for in version 8 is that ability we will now have backwards compatibility. Now, obviously, there's going to be a degree of backwards compatibility, and of course, it's going to start at version 8.0 and progress into future versions, which means today we laid the groundwork. So let's say you roll out 8.0, you have a new LU that hits the streets a couple months down the road. You could take advantage of that LU. Not every system has to be running the same LU. Much of it will depend on certain features that are coming out. So what I would tell you is the most important thing, make sure you consult your release notes with the current version and the release that you're looking to upgrade to make sure that that compatibility is there. We're going to do our best to make sure that we have backwards compatibility for at least one major version, and that's going to be the starting point for us. There's new architecture. It eases upgrades and allows clients and server updates without interrupting live video. Very important feature for our end users, the ones that will be dealing with video on a day-to-day basis. Improved automation of installation and updates, greater efficiency, reliability, all major points when we talk about stability of the product and upgrade improvements. One of the other things that we've done is we've enhanced our already robust Easy Client. And this is very important because we've taken our Easy Client and we've harnessed the power of our transcode server to now deliver native H.264 video to our Easy Client requesters. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to save a lot of resources. We don't have to transcode every single video stream to deliver it to those particular requesters. Now, it's true, some streams may have to be transcoded, and of course, you also have the flexibility to decide whether or not you want to receive the native video when it's available, or if you want to harness the power of the transcoder to transcode the images ahead of time. Some of you may remember we used to do this way back in the day when we first brought out our web clients, and obviously we made a lot of changes to the architecture of our web client. It's evolved into what we have today, which is the Easy Client, which is very feature rich, and now we're making sure that we have all the latest features available for you. One of the next features that we're going to talk about, and one that's very important to me, not only as an administrator and a professional trainer, but when we start bringing everything together in a single user interface, it makes life a lot simpler. And not only is it that one step, but this in itself is just another step in the seamless integration of our thermal cameras, our thermal camera lines into our United VMS. Now, specifically, when I'm talking about this particular feature, this involves our FCID cameras. Now, for those who are not familiar with our thermal camera lines, this is one of our later models of the FC series, the FCID, which also incorporates analytics at the edge. And it makes life simple, right? There's no jumping into the FCID's webpage to configure analytics anymore. Everything can be done from one user interface. We're making it easy, right? You can use DNA, you can configure it, you can do your firmware updates, you can discover it into Latitude, you can attach it, you can adjust your picture settings now, you can configure your analytics. It's a single client user interface that you can configure your camera from start to finish. Simplified discovery process goes without saying. We'll demonstrate this a little bit later, but again, it just goes to making things easier in the software, discovering cameras, attaching them to the various archive servers that we have available. Again, just a simplified process. We also have a new license management system that's going to be available in version 8.0. Brand new license portal built from the ground up for 8.0 provides increased flexibility and security for our integrators and end users. Multiple ways to license your servers. You can access our license portable with your user credentials, similar to what we had before, but again, a much more robust and rich user interface, much easier to navigate. I'd love to show it to you. I've got a couple of slides in the presentation that I'll point out a little bit later on. Still under a little bit of development right now and testing, so I can't show it to you live. But, you know, again, just going back to it, multiple ways to license your servers. You can log into our portal. You can use what's called the manual activation method, and it just makes it flexible for, you know, whatever your needs are. So let's take a minute and elaborate on some of the features that we have in version 8.0. And the first one that I want to focus on here is cyber defense. So why cyber defense? The answer is easy, and the evidence is everywhere. Just turn on your local news station and you're bound to hear about tens of millions of dollars of information being stolen or hijacked. It happens all the time. We focused on specific areas within 8.0, one of which is securing our cameras via TLS, and that ability to be able to block non-secured connections. We added a special tab in our Admin Center client that allows you to set your own security parameters. You have password management capabilities for your edge devices, self-signed certificates, and there's a lot that you can get into with this, and this is just an example. You'll see that there's actually two tabs side by side on this slide. You got your system security tab, the first section there where you can see you got a couple of settings on how you'd like your system to utilize the the TLS, and then of course we've got the edge security, which we'll dive into a little bit further when we get into the demonstration portion of the webinar. Okay. One of the next things that I'd like to focus on is the global admin server. Now, I'm sure most of you that have worked with multiple systems in the past, you know the struggle is real for the administrators of multiple systems. And today, with our global admin server, administrators can now set both what are called global user groups and global users. Once a group or a user is set as a global entity, all directories will receive the information. So what does that mean? It means all usernames and passwords will be the same across all common systems. So again, this is another step to making sure that we make it easier for the administrators to get the job done quickly and efficiently. The setup process for global admin server is pretty simple for the most part, and again, I've got a demo system here where it's already set up. I'll go through some of the steps of getting it implemented out there, but each system will need a global admin server service installed and set up to participate in this. It's a simple installer package that basically needs to be applied to any server on the actual system itself. So it doesn't have to be on a specific server. It can be pretty much on any server that's available. Now, it can be an existing server. You may choose to install it on your directory server, or of course, being flexible, you could install it on a standalone server itself. So again, there's no specific requirement for it to be installed on any specific server, so the choice is yours. Once it's installed, basically it's just a synchronization process that takes place between the global admin server services to make sure that the information is distributed down to all the other systems once it's updated. And it's bi-directional between each one of the systems. So if you're creating a global user on one system, of course, the synchronization will take place across all your systems. You don't need to worry about doing it from a perfectly central location. I mentioned the installation and upgrade improvements, and again, we're back to it. One of the biggest things here for me in this release is the backwards compatibility. Very important feature. I mentioned earlier, we're going to make every effort to make sure that we're compatible with one major version back on the backwards compatibility. And of course, that's going to cover the majority of our Latitude updates. Or our, actually I should just say our United VMS updates that are released for all of our platforms. Client applications and servers can connect to directory with different versions, right, making it easier. It goes back to, you may have a customer that has different versions at different locations, and one may be ready to upgrade before another. And of course, today, you can't do that. You can't take a version 7.0 system, even on a different LU, and have it work together, right? Before in the past, and when I've gone through, teaching the certification courses, the one thing I make sure I focus on in class is it's only that specific version that it's compatible with itself. Well, we're making strides to really make sure that we can break out of that mold and have that backwards compatibility. And this, again, it allows your customers to upgrade their systems and phases with minimal interruptions to live and playback video. Again, so it's just overall robustness and ease of major system deployments and upgrades. I mentioned a little bit about the enhanced easy client. Okay, I did mention that we're leveraging our transcode server. Right, the transcoder can be used as a proxy now. Reduces the load. Again, transcoding video, extremely processor intensive. Proxying video takes little to no resources. Right, very simple process there. Adaptive streaming is supported with the FLIR model cameras. This is a great feature. For those of you that have had the opportunity to play with our adaptive streaming technology in our control center client, you're going to see that it's really going to aid you in reducing the overall bandwidth and revitalizing some of the older PCs that may not have been able to be used in the past just due to the extreme CPU load that decoding some of these high HD quality cameras put on them. So again, it's really a great feature to take advantage of, and we've actually taken that same technology that we've had in Control Center and we've brought it to the Easy Client as well. We've got some new settings in the Easy Client. As I mentioned, you can decide whether or not you want to utilize H.264 video, or if you just want to use the transcoder to transcode the video into the system. The release notes, obviously important. Check them out, right? It's going to talk about the limitations. Make sure that you're up to speed on what needs to be there. Toggling scenes and dual sensor cameras for playback, like the PT series, the D series, the dual sensor cameras that we have available. You can toggle, from, say, your thermal image to your visible image and back and forth in between. Great feature, really helps show off the power and the quality of those cameras, especially when you can see them, within the same scene together. Excellent features there. Snapshots, one little improvement that we made is the snapshots are now saved locally without any additional work. Before it went into a queue and then you had to download it. This is just instantaneous. Click it, downloads it, it's done deal. Simple and easy. I talked a little bit about the analytic setup here. Again, I'm going to show it just real quickly, talk about it for just a couple of seconds in the presentation here, and I'm going to try to show you a live demo of this when we get out to the system later on. But this is a great feature. I mentioned it, probably one of my favorite things about this is we're taking something that required multiple steps outside of the Latitude system to get it configured, and we've brought it now into the Latitude environment. So it's a single location that you can focus all your efforts. If you're comfortable already working in the Latitude environment, as I am for many years, I've been working with Latitude, I didn't have any questions. I just simply jumped right into it and I immediately knew what to do. It was a very simple process to get my camera set up, and you have all the same features basically that you have in the web page of the camera. You can go in, you can set up your depth calibration, you can set up your rules, you've got general settings, and of course I mentioned in one of our earlier releases we added the thermal settings tab, which you see up there at the top, which gave us the flexibility to go in and modify a lot of the picture settings of the camera, like the color schemes and all that stuff there, the histogram. Discovery process, again, we've kind of rearranged things a little bit in the discovery process. We've collectively created a single plugin for all of our FLIR cameras that have subcategories, as you see up here in the page. So one of the things we did is we've improved that process so you don't have to check and uncheck a million and one different other boxes. And then we redefined the attaching process here, which I'll give you a great demonstration of this a little bit later on when we move through the presentation. Now, I did mention the new licensing management portion of this here, and again, I can't comment enough on this. I just saw it for the very first time last week, and I was really impressed by it because it's definitely day and night compared to what we have today. Again, we built it from completely the ground up. United VMS 8.0. entirely new website, everything, it was built from the ground up. And I think the most important aspect of that is it gives us the flexibility to take the licensing portal in the direction that we choose, right, since we're starting fresh. We're not trying to modify or build on something that's been in existence for a couple of decades now. So it's refreshed, it's refined. Licenses will be copied over from the old licensing website, right, using the activation keys, so everything will still be there. Don't worry about it. Nothing's getting lost. You can retrieve new activation keys before starting the upgrade process right from our website whenever you need to. I did mention the new client portal, or I should say I mentioned the client portal. We do have a new client portal that allows customers to view and download their licenses. You don't have to contact us. You have access to it. You need your license. You need to re-download it to freshen up your system, or if you've lost it or just whatever it might be misplaced, you want to re-download it. It's always available for you here at the licensing portal. There's been a few changes, obviously, to the activation and the website itself. And again, more and more of this information will come to light as we progress and we get closer to the release date. One thing that I want to focus on, maybe I can't show you everything here in the presentation because it hasn't gone live yet, but I can guarantee you this. At the time of release, we're going to have a training video that'll be on our website that'll be available to you. Check it out. It's going to go over the entire process of how to license your server. So again, this is going to be new for everybody. I want to make sure that you have all the tools necessary to get through the process.
Chris, hi, this is Jico. It's important to note that licenser for 7.0 will still be generated off the old licensing server. Only 8.0 and up will have the new licensing server.
Excellent point, Chico. Thank you. Yes, both portals, and you'll actually see it on their website. There'll be a portal for 7.0, and then there'll be another portal for 8.0. So just to give you an example of basically what the licensing portal is going to look like, this is just one of the quick screenshots that I grabbed from the new licensing portal. Makes it really easy to see what's there, a lot of information. One of the next pages here, if you take a look at this one here, this is our manual activation. You just simply upload the request that you generate from your machine. You download the license file, you plug it right in. There's been a little bit of talk that there might even be some drag and drop capabilities that are going to be built into this at some point, so you'll literally be able to just drag and drop a file in there and boom, you're just going to download your license file and you're ready to go. Some of the additional improvements we're going to touch on here, you can create actions by schedule. So there's basically what this is it's like a timer that you now have access to be able to create within your system, so you can have daily schedules. Say you want to arm or disarm something, or you want to send off an alarm at noon to make sure your guards are paying attention to the monitors. Did you have your coffee today, or whatever it is. You can have that pop up via alarm in the system. Anyways, it adds a lot of flexibility to the system. We've enhanced the SDK for the RTSP API to get the H.264 streams via RTSP. Horizon workstations, Meridians will be upgraded to Windows, I think that might be a little typo in there, Windows 10 or 2010, I guess you could just say. Meridian license, this is another big change for those of you that are currently Meridian users. We've increased the user count to 4 concurrent users and 4 mobile users, plus an additional SDK if you need it. We also have a lot of new edge device support. We've got a lot of new cameras that are coming out. The corner camera, the 4K fixed box camera, the PTHD. If you got on the webinar last week, you heard a little bit about that camera. Our PTZ, PT tracking solution. We've got some support for the new Axis cameras, the Q60, 55, the 3708, the 3707. And one other little change, again, but very noteworthy here, the mobile client search capabilities. For those of you who are mobile client users, so we're talking about on your iPad or your iPhone, or if you're an Android user, of course, we'd like you guys to, you can now search for video from your mobile device, right? So you have additional search capabilities. So again, it gives you a little bit more flexibility when you're out and about and you want to, double check what's going on at your facility.
Chris, one point, those cameras that you mentioned, corner, fixed, both are already released. So 8.0 is going to support them, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and same for the other cameras that I mentioned.
Okay.
Okay.
So a couple other important points that I want to talk about here. Obviously, at some point you're thinking you're going to want to upgrade to version 8.0. What do you need to know? Obviously, we're going to take a quick glance. Current operating systems, what are we supporting today? You'll notice a lot of the OSs from Microsoft are on upgrade only, your Windows 7, your Windows 8. If you're running 8.1 or 10, most people are running 10 these days. I mean, it ships with every new PC, so you may have some dinosaurs that are still out there, but if you're already running, don't worry about it. They work on upgrade, no problem whatsoever. We're just trying to stay current on the latest technology. Anything we ship you here from FLIR is going to be coming out on on Windows 10, so again, no need to worry about that. We still have support for Server 2008 R2 SP1 on upgrade only, and then of course server support for 2012 64-bit, and of course 2012 R2 data bit or standard doesn't make a difference. Supported upgrade paths, again, if you're a version 7 or a version 6.4, latest version of 6.4, 6.4.0, 68, you can upgrade directly to version 8.0. If you're running an earlier version, version 6.3, SP1, or version 6.2, or if you're running something earlier, you can get to 8. You just have to make a stop in the middle, right? Consult your release notes. It will give you the preferred upgrade path to get to the latest version, right? So just a couple of quick things to keep in mind there for those of you that are looking to upgrade. So a little bit off topic here because I'm going to jump back to version 7.0 for a second, but it's still an important point, right? Most of you on this call are running version 7.0, and you're probably sitting there going, I want to upgrade to 8, can't do it right away. Okay, not a big deal. We've released an update for version 7.0. It's going to be update 79. I should say it will be releasing update 79. It'll probably be released right about the same time 8.0 hits the streets as well. So if you can't upgrade right away to 8.0 and you still want to take advantage a lot of the integrity and robustness that's been built into version 8.0, update 79 for version 7 was basically developed in parallel with United VMS version 8.0. So obviously we're going to tell you, listen, if you can't upgrade to United VMS 8.0 right away, get the update 79, right? Take advantage of all that robustness, all those, a lot of bug fixes we've worked into the software. Just a couple of quick examples here of what we have. Enhanced control over adaptive streaming. You got Active Directory improvements on the performance side. Tons of stability improvements. New edge device support, right? We just talked about it. And for version 8, same thing for the update 79, the corner camera, the 4K, the PTHD, the PT tracking, the access cameras. You've got it all built into update 79. And by the way, this just shows you, even though we're moving on to a new platform, we haven't forgotten about anybody that's run version 7, right? We're making sure that you guys still stay up to date, and we're bringing a lot of the improvements that we're developing in the later releases to the existing release, right? So it's still fully supported today. Now, if I haven't already sold you on why to upgrade to version 8.0, I guess let me just give you a quick recap here. Version 8.0 introduces significant updates to the infrastructure, features, and user experience, hands down. Very important stuff. Advanced cyber protection in your systems for your customers that are looking for that strong cyber solution for their systems. You got better performance all around, improved user experience with your FLIR products. Again, we talked a little bit about that adaptive streaming and how we're utilizing it even in our easy clients today. All right, just quick review here, training resources. I mentioned a couple seconds ago about some training videos that are going to be available. We're already producing them. We've got a couple of, actually we've got a few training videos available that are going to be ready for the release of 8.0. We're working on a few more, so we're going to have an entire volume available. For those of you who are looking for it, latitude, and of course thermal certification classes, if you go to our website, www.flir.com/security, you'll find the training resource there. We've got open classes for 8.0. You can get out there, you can register for them today. Thermal classes available in Santa Barbara, New Jersey, so if you're looking to learn a little bit more about our thermal solution that we have available, great class to join. We've got online training videos that are being produced for 8.0 right now. They'll be available upon release. And of course, interactive webinars that we do throughout the year to keep you guys updated on the latest and greatest products that we can deliver to you. So get out there, check it out, visit our website, see what we have to offer. Now, as I mentioned, at the conclusion of the PowerPoint presentation, I was going to roll into a quick system demo. Now, before I do that, I'm going to let Gico come on the air here, make sure that we've cleaned up any of the questions, that were in the queue, or if he wants to elaborate on anything that we've gone through so far. Gico, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so we got a couple of questions, and I already answered the questions. I think we have a pretty good understanding of all the concerns that raise up in the questions below. There are several questions about Windows 10 and support for a client and server. So 8.0 support Windows 10 both for client and server, as you mentioned, and for 7.0 we support client only for a specific latitude update. And I think it's a LU62, but the release notes can give more details on this. With regards to release dates of 79, it might be sooner than the end of July, and will be follow the emails, the announcement that we have, and we might have also surprise with 8.0 and release it earlier than the end of the month.
Okay, excellent, Gico. Thank you. All right, so give me a second here. Let me change gears over to my desktop. And one of the first areas that I'm going to just quickly navigate into is the Admin Center client. Now, I talked a little bit about Camera Discovery Force during the presentation, so that's probably one of the first areas I want to hit for you guys, because I kept saying I'm going to show it off for you. It's going to be easier to understand how it is. So over here on the sidebar, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate down to my Discovery page over here. Now, I do have two systems that I'm currently connected to. So this particular system down here, I did a little bit of pre-work to save some time for the demonstration, so I've actually just sent out the discovery request. You can see down here in the bottom of the window I have all my encoders already discovered. And you'll notice if you discovered cameras in the previous versions, looks a little bit different. You'll see a list of archivers in your available archiver section over here. So I've got archiver and archiver 2. And then of course I've got the list of all my edge devices over here with little boxes next to them. So just to make things very simple, you choose the archiver, you choose the cameras you want to attach to the archiver. So just check the boxes like this and move on to another one. You can check these here. If you decide you need to put this one on a different one, you can just simply check it until you get all the encoders onto the different archivers that you want. So again, we're making it very easy for you to position your cameras, add multiple cameras to different archivers all at the same time. Very simple process. Once you have everything set up the way you want it, you hit the little save disk up here at the top, and it's going to position all your cameras right over onto your archive servers. Don't worry about the little message there. It's just alerting me that my one archiver is offline right now. Essentially what I've done is I've just created a fictitious archiver just for this webinar, so you could see something more than just one archiver. And you'll notice over here in my my physical tree that under my archive servers, the appropriate encoders have been placed under each one of the archive servers that I designated. So again, on your larger systems, you may have 5 or 10 different archive servers. You can discover hundreds of cameras, and it'll still make the process a lot easier to go down through that list, check the cameras, add them to the various archive servers in the system. So again, just one of the simple little improvements that we made here. Much better than right-clicking at archive server, save it, move it over under the archive server. Just the little improvements make all the difference in the world. Saves a lot of time. Usually when I look at stuff like this, it's about mouse clicks, right? The fewer the mouse clicks, the more time I'm going to save. Just makes it easier across the board. So that's the new discovery process, essentially attaching cameras to the various archive servers in the system. So the next area that I'd like to visit, yes?
Chris, if you don't mind, one small addition. When discovering FLIR cameras, there is no longer different plugins, Quasar, Ariel, and there is only one discovery. It's FLIR. You hit the FLIR, and the system, behind the scenes is going to find the right driver to connect to the camera.
Right. That's what Jico's talking about is up here at the top of the screen, where it's pretty much just common settings now. You just check FLIR, we find them all. All right, so cyber defense. Now, I mentioned before that there's a couple different tabs that we need to take a look at. So the first one we're going to focus on is the System Security tab. Now, there's a few different options that you have up here at the top, and again, a lot of it is going to depend on how much of this you really want to enforce in your system, and you also have to be a little bit careful here, and I'll explain why. So the first box you see that I have a check mark in, it's just simply telling the system if use the secured edge connection if it's available. So that means I have this checked. I start setting up a camera. I get the certificate ready in the camera, and then I go to connect to the camera. We're automatically going to be looking for that information, and we'll try to secure it upon the discovery process and setting it up in the system. Now, the next step is to block communication from devices using unsecured connections, but we can allow users to secure them. So when we're talking about unsecured connections, we're talking about essentially any device that doesn't have a certificate. So what does that mean? So the first thing is, if you plan to implement and enforce a setting like this, you have to make sure that you're using all cameras that support this feature. Not every single camera will support this feature. Some cameras may support it natively, other cameras may support it via ONVIF, but there's going to be some cameras that may not support it. And again, this is very important. You want to make sure that you look at your release notes, your supported edge devices, and just look for the limitations. If it's important to you to be able to enforce something like this, you need to make sure that you have all the correct components in order to be able to set it up appropriately. Moving on from there, our next option is to block communications for devices using untrusted certificates. So that means even if you're using self-signed certificates in your cameras, those are considered untrusted, and even that can be blocked from the system, forcing you to use legitimate certificates from providers where they can be authenticated. So those are just a couple of the settings that you have to pick and choose from on the Security Settings tab. Now, as we move over to our next tab here under the Edge Security section, you'll see I've done a little bit of work on this page, and I didn't want to go too in-depth with this, and yes, we will have a training video that will go over all the particulars, how to set it up, how to do the self-signed certificates and all that stuff to the cameras. But just a very brief overview of what you're seeing here and some of the different icons and settings. So just as an example, the 1.4K camera that I have up here at the top, you'll notice the icon next to it kind of looks like it has this warning. It's telling me the camera is secured, it has a certificate, but it still has the default password in the camera. And we see that as a potential security warning. As a matter of fact, if you take a look down at the bottom of the page, it gives you all the information. What just happened there? I've got an alarm. Oh, look at this. I've got an alarm that just came in. It says, Chris, you should be moving on to the questions pane initiated by the timer. Oh, yeah. You guys remember that timer that I talked about earlier? Well, I did actually set up a timer. It means I'm a little bit behind schedule, but I utilized that timer to trigger an alarm in my system so I could show off how it actually works. Let you guys stew about that for a little bit. We'll come back. We'll talk about the timer in a minute. I want to finish talking about some of these other settings, and we'll come back and we'll see that firsthand. All right, so back to the Edge Security page. Again, just real quick, you can see down here at the bottom, It's still using default passwords, so obviously it's warning. I do have a fully secured camera here. You can see it's secured. It's got the certificate. The default password has been changed. Obviously, I'm using a self-signed certificate, as can be seen down here at the bottom, but it still sees it as a secured camera. Now, the simplest and easiest way to set this up, once your camera has a certificate, you can move on to the next step. So from here, I can highlight one of my cameras in the list. I could set the security mode. I can either say I want it to be the secured connection or unsecured connection, just as an example. If I try to secure a camera and it doesn't have a certificate, it's immediately going to come back and it's going to say securing unit failed. There's no certificate in this camera. Hadn't set one up yet, so immediately it's going to tell me, okay, it's not going to work. So I know I have to go back and do some additional work on that camera before I can secure it. Setting the passwords in the camera, also very simple. You'll find a camera that supports it, change password, you enter in a new password, it'll update it automatically directly from this page. And by the way, this is also another important thing. When you update the password here, it pushes it down to the camera, but it also updates the password in the Latitude environment at the same time. So you don't have to update it in two places. You know, the old trick is you could go into DNA, you could change the password in your camera, and then you come into Latitude and you try to discover it, and you can't discover it. Why not? Because nobody's updated the password in Latitude. If you use this to update your passwords, it pushes the password to the camera. It also stores that updated password information here in Latitude as well, right? So again, it's just an added little benefit by doing it from this location. Gico, anything that you want to add on the Edge security page?
Yeah, just a quick, a minor thing that you can not only secure one camera, but you can select several cameras at once, and then you can hit the same, the secure mode, or change the password for all of them at once. So this can save you a lot of time.
Right, definitely.
There was a question. There was a question for you for the discovery page, whether it's in the presentation it showed an HD encoder, but it is not there now. In the live discovery page, is there an HD encoder plugin in V8? So I'm not sure which HD encoder you used.
I think it's just the Quasar 1 plus HD series, and I think that the Gen 2, all Gen 2 cameras are HD, so I think we just don't put the HD on.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so this is the standard encoder, and it is automatically discovered by... oh, if it's not FLIR, no, we didn't add any plugin if it's not a FLIR camera. No question.
That's
okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So just real quick, we've got a couple more things to take a look at here. One that I'd like to just quickly point out is the global admin server. You can actually see a couple instances of the global admin server. Let me just get this out of the way. Right here in my physical view tree. Now I've added them to both of my systems. And again, I mentioned the process of setting this up. Very simple and easy. I've got a global admin server here on this particular system, and also one down here on this system as well. Now you'll notice the setup process is literally just a right-click, add global admin server. It's grayed out because I already have it, so you only have one per system. The network address, username and password to authenticate into it. So if this is my main one, any of the other global admin servers, when I add them, will also point back to the network address of my main global admin server. So you just point the username and password back there. And then, of course, in regards to the actual settings, it's very simple, because you're just going to set the interval down here to however often you'd like it to synchronize. You can also force synchronization if you're doing a bunch of updates and you just want to make sure that everything is pushed down. Once you're done, you can just go to your global admin server, synchronize now, and it'll make sure that all the settings are distributed across. Aside from that, setting up user accounts and all that in groups for the global admin account stuff is pretty simple. If you're creating a new group, you can just come up here. I'll do it the quickest way. Create a user group, add the user group to the system, and you just put a check mark in the box that says is global group, right? So immediately upon doing that, if I set this user group up here, right, I save it so it's a global group, right? So it's here, and in just somewhere in between now and 5 minutes, it will automatically synchronize. And of course, if you're like me and you don't like the wait, I want to see it happen immediately, I can just go right back over here to my physical view tree. I could do a synchronize now, and if I go back and I take a look over here, it's synchronizing. It may take a couple seconds here, but eventually this group, you'll see it appear down here. I did synchronize it, didn't I? There we go. My system's being lazy today. It'll come down there in a couple of seconds here. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds for it to roll through the motions and synchronize itself. Not sure exactly how long it takes for the entire synchronization to take place, but we'll give it a couple seconds. We'll come back, we'll take a look at it, but it will synchronize itself and it'll push down to the other system in the queue there. And by the way, that's the same thing with the user accounts as well. They'll push down as well. So when they synchronize, you'll see everything synchronized. They'll push from one system to another. Real quick, while we have time, let's take a look at the FCID. I do happen to have one live on my system here, so let me go ahead and pull up the FCID. So just real quick, the FCID camera, we've got our video settings. Again, this is something we've added, the thermal settings we added in an earlier release, which gave us the ability to interact with the camera, maybe make some display change settings on the camera itself. And obviously the one that we've recently added with the release of 8.0 is the Analytic tab. Now this is great because it gives you all the same ability that you have when you're working in the camera in respect to setting up the analytics on the camera. Now you'll notice I've done some work on this camera. Just real quick, you can see down here, use configuration from system or web, so you can toggle this back and forth depending on how you want it to set up. Really everything that you have to set up that you were setting up in the FCID can be done directly from Latitude now. You could do your depth calibrations, you could do it automatically, you could do it manually. I've tested it out. I've walked, over the weekend I was walking in my backyard, setting it up automatically. I did a manual, tested it out, everything works great. You set your rules here, very simple, right? You've got your intrusion areas, you can do tripwires, masking areas, and it's just very simple. I'll just make it quick there, and then you click that. Immediately I can create an intrusion zone in a certain area. Tripwire, again, same thing like this. All right, and we can add that there. You can do the same thing with directional. You can add it whether it's human, vehicle, or object. The general settings here, setting whether it's the sensitivity, the show object detection here. You can do the no bounding boxes, or you can do classification boxes, or all boxes. You can show lines, show regions. So you've got a fair amount of settings in here that you can set up on this particular camera right here from Admin Center. You can also arm and disarm the camera directly from the top of the screen here as well while you're working with it. Just again, a lot of nice little neat features that you can come in here and set up on the FCIDs. Now, one of the other things that I mentioned is that timer that went off. So where did it come from, number one? How did it get into the system? So earlier, before I began the webinar, one of the things that I did is I created a timer in the system. A timer is a logical entity that can be added just by right-clicking up here at the top and choosing timer. The neat thing about the timer is it gives you that one little element that we've never had before, something to happen on the schedule. I want to be able to send trigger an output at a specific time, which opens up a gate or deactivates an alarm system or whatever it might be. Now you have it. You can do a timer. You can set it up for a single occurrence. You can have it reoccurring on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. You can set it up. You can see I had it set up for 10:45 here, which is about the time I thought I'd be getting to my Q&A. Running a little bit late, so I guess it's good that Chico is working hard cleaning up those questions in the background. But again, it's just like anything else. You create a timer. This is an event, and of course you can have an action that triggers the event. So once you create your timer, you can go to the Actions tab, and here, timer elapsed. You can see what I did earlier is I set it to trigger an alarm in my system, so that alarm will essentially push out to whatever. In this case, it's going to my control center client, so that I can see that response that comes in. But it's like anything else. It's just completing that if and then statement that's been made here in Admin Center. And for those of you who hadn't noticed, by the way, that that global admin server had synced, you can actually see here in my tree I do have that test group in this system here now and over here. So again, I guess patience does work sometimes, but you can see that it's fully synchronized and the information is in both locations. So I have a group in both locations. Of course, I could add users to that group, and of course they'll show up in all the different locations as well. So as long as I choose the users to be global users as well. So again, very simple to set up there. Gico, anything that you want to add at this point? I'm actually going to jump into the Easy Client and get this set up real quick. So if there's anything in the questions.
The questions have been answered, and I will. We can leave the GoToMeeting on for a few minutes. So if people have some questions, we can continue answering them.
Excellent. All right, so just real quick, I'm going to pull up the web client here, one of the Easy Client, one of the last things I wanted to just quickly show off here. So one of the things that's changed a little bit about the Easy Client, as Gico was talking about before, is up here, as you log into your user account, there's a settings section here. Now this is where you can decide whether or not you want to use H.264 streaming if possible, or if you want to leverage the transcoder to transcode the images over. Now, you could pick and choose here, and you could toggle it back and forth, and you'll definitely see the difference. Unfortunately, not with the quality of the video, but if I were to leave this off and maybe pull a camera out here, I think I have my transcoder settings. Yeah, you can see it. Even across the web, that's a horrible image. I took my transcoder setting, and I knocked this all the way down to 120p. That's why it's horribly pixelated. You can't even tell what it is. Notice the thumbnail over here is nice and clean, but the image, not so pretty. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to change this setting to use the H.264 if possible, and I may have to refresh this here. So we'll pull that out, bring this back in here, and now we should see that it's going to utilize the proxied video stream from the camera, and this time much better image quality. So you can see it's actually getting the native H.264 video stream from the camera versus the transcoded video stream from the transcoder itself. So it's night and day difference in regards to quality, well, simply because obviously the way I have my transcoder set up, I wanted you to be able to see the big difference there. But there again, obviously you're talking about the native video, so if it's 4K, you're going to get the native video from those cameras. This one happens to be 1080p, so it's going to be the quality itself will be. Give this a second here to come up. This will be a good shot here in the back. Great image quality, right? Definitely better than if I were to utilize the transcoder with the low settings. So very noticeable difference between this and this. Okay.
And plus, adaptive streaming is supported with two streams, meaning that if you have a small tile and you're switching to maximize to a bigger tile, then adaptive streaming will kick in, as well as zoom in and zoom out.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately I don't have all the cameras on my system here, and being at night time it's going to be a little bit difficult to see it, but if we start, say, zooming in here, there may be a possibility where we'll get some more detail on this particular camera. There it goes. So you could actually see it just switched, and you can see the writing on this this bag has gotten quite a bit more robust. Definitely not the best way to be able to show it off with a night quality image, but you could see the switch, you could see the quality of the the overall camera change there on that particular camera. Okay, so Chico, anything else that we want to quickly touch on, or are we just going to leave the line open for a few minutes for questions?
Yeah, I think you covered it all. I think 8.0 has a lot of features, very exciting features, and every person that I talk to, and we have been showing 8.0 for several months in the shows. Everybody is excited about a different feature or different few features. One is excited about the backward compatibility, one about the cyber, there was one about the discovery and the FCID setup with analytics. And there are a lot of features, a lot of richness of features in the product. And like you said, if you have an SSA, it's free of charge to upgrade, and we encourage everyone to upgrade once you see the announcement of the software and the products is released.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chico, and I'm going to leave the lines open for about another 5 minutes or so. So if you do happen to have any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in now. We'll get you responses. Also, obviously, we're at the conclusion of the webinar. Feel free to go ahead and drop off and enjoy the rest of your day. If something does come up in the interim after the webinar, feel free to go ahead and shoot us an email here. We'll make sure that we get you the answers that you need. Thank you.